All right. Well, we are right at 30 minutes past the hour, and that is the start time for our presentation. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, for joining us today in our session about rethinking digital scholarship. My name is Sarah Norris. I am the Scholarly Communication Librarian at the University of Central Florida Libraries. And today I am joined by my colleague and co-presenter, Rachel Vacek. Rachel is the Associate Dean for Digital Strategies, Impact, and Visibility at UCF Libraries as well. And we're looking forward to chatting with you all today. We are recording today's session. And before we do get started in our content, we do, of course, want to thank SJSU School of Information as well as Skill Type for supporting this really already excellent session and mini conference today. So with that, we are going to take a dive in. We have a short amount of time, and our hope is that this is going to be a real conversation starter as we start to think about digital scholarship as we move towards 2035. And we got so much great information, I think, at the keynote today that as they were talking, many of the points that we're going to share today, I think will really reemphasize the things that our keynote speakers talked about as well. So we do have a pretty large agenda, but again, we're going to go through things in a little bit of a broad overview, and we hope that we'll continue this conversation in the future. To frame today's conversation, we did want to talk a little bit about scholarly communication and digital scholarship and the intersectionality between those two. Scholarly communication really is sort of that broad system from ideation to research, dissemination, and preservation. So really that entire research life cycle, it's really at the fore of what we do in academic libraries and research broadly. Digital scholarship, on the other hand, is really focusing on that sort of research output that is digital in nature in some way, whether it's utilizing digital tools, collections, data visualization, digital humanities, publishing, all of the things that really have that digital emphasis. So there is sort of that connection with Scholcom as the broad umbrella and digital scholarship as a bit of a subset within. So today we're really going to frame digital scholarship, but of course, scholarly communication is at the fore of everything that we do. So with that, we'd love to hear about all of you who are in today's session and your insights on digital scholarship at your institution. So we do have a poll everywhere. Rachel is going to share the URL as well as the text chat information. There is a QR code as well that should work, but we'd love to hear a little bit about whether you have a dedicated unit or department for digital scholarship or where your institution is at. Because we do have a little bit of limited time, we are going to run through this poll a bit swiftly, but no worries, you can utilize the chat if you don't get a chance to share that in there as well. So we'll give it about 20 seconds or so. I know that poll everywhere can sometimes take a little bit of time to get navigated and into. Maybe flip on over to see if we can start getting some results. Poll everywhere is being a little cranky right now. We've tested it a bunch. And now it's a little cranky. There we go. All right. So it looks like there are a contingent of you who do have a digital scholarship unit or department, and we'll love to hear from you all today about that. And there's quite a few of you that do not have any department or any positions dedicated to that. So it looks like most people do not have a dedicated unit. So I hope that today we'll have some good conversation starters about how you can navigate that at your institution. So with that, let's talk a little bit about changes in the research enterprise to frame today's conversation and how we might approach digital scholarship in the future. There's no doubt that research has evolved and will continue to evolve in the future. Certainly in the last several years, we've seen a really dramatic shift in research practices some in part due to the impacts of COVID-19 and the need to shift online, to rethink how we collaborate, how we work together, and also a lot of emerging and evolving technologies. Our keynote presenters talked quite a bit about artificial intelligence. We won't go into that in depth today, but certainly AI and many of the other kinds of tools out there and technologies are definitely deeply impacting research practices in a very swift and sometimes unknown way too. And then funding, I think that is another area that we're seeing a big shift. The increase in funding requirements to make works openly accessible for equity and access, but also funding directly tied to the research output and the impact of that research. So we're seeing a much stronger focus on metrics and benchmarking. And a lot of that is not only tied to funding, but even promotion and tenure as well. There are a few themes that come out of that we saw as we were working on this presentation. First, I mentioned that need to articulate impact in everything that we do, whether it's individual researchers or even libraries themselves, having to articulate the ways in which we are impactful and have return on investment. To that end, data-driven decisions are being made at all levels, so that impact and data are directly connected. So even if you aren't doing data-focused research, there is a real need for you to be data literate and be able to understand and access data tools, whether it's just helping you articulate data visualizations for impact on the things that you do. And as I mentioned, publicly funded research has continued and likely will continue to increase in open access requirements. And that is certainly happening worldwide. Of course, technology, as mentioned in the keynote, is a huge space that is impacting research and research enterprise. All things data are certainly coming to the fore, in addition to things like artificial intelligence, which is definitely changing the game. Data in particular, at all ends, whether it's data storage and preservation, or even other things like just data fluency are deeply important to the research enterprise and all that we're doing. And as we've learned from the pandemic, virtual collaboration tools are becoming the norm, even Zoom like we're in right now, and of course, so many other pieces of technology. UCF in particular has been evolving our research practices and research output. We have a path to preeminence. Preeminence is a status in the state of Florida that is not only tied to state funding for institutions, but also rankings as well. And we have a strategic plan that is really focused on growing research and especially grant-funded research. Our Office of Research is also in the development of a research enterprise plan. I'm on our Institutional Research Council that is connected to our Office of Research. And so we've been reviewing this plan a lot, talking about benchmarking metrics, again, some of those things really directly tied to the evolving research enterprise, but also really pulling together infrastructure investment, new centers and institutes, likely around digital scholarship, and even research support teams as well, for which we are hoping to make sure that the library is at the table and helping actively support, especially with digital scholarship. And of course, the evolving role of libraries in this is another really important intersection. And that's, really at the core of what we're talking about. College and Research Libraries News highlighted some top trends this last year. And to no surprise, so much of this is really connected to some of those evolving research practices that we're seeing, and many of the things that were talked about as well in the keynote today. And you can see definitely that overlap with the trends and changes in the research enterprise. And of course, that means libraries also have to evolve. And we talked a little bit again about that in the keynote. There's so much good conversation happening there. I think libraries always will do many of the things that we've been really good at. We are being actively asked to be more involved in the digital space, whether it's publishing, digital humanities, data services, and yet we already have a lot of those skill sets that can translate into that area. We are a really important part of an academic institution, providing a space that is disciplinary neutral, especially related to tech spaces and tools. Even on our campus, we have spaces, but they're really specific to a discipline. So many people on our campus doing research can't access that tools, but the library can fill that void. And we are deeply embedded in information literacy and critical thinking to help really address some of these emerging technologies and research practices. And of course, we are always very interdisciplinary in the knowledge and perspectives that we share. So looking ahead, and Rachel's going to highlight a lot of this, there is a real critical need for us to be proactively engaged, and we'll share some strategies of how you might do that. One of the things that on this slide that really struck both me and Rachel as we were thinking about this presentation is an article we saw where they said collaboration is a choice. And I think that is something that as we're thinking about digital scholarship and how that evolves and is reframed and rethought about, being a good collaborator, that's an active choice we need to be involved in. So I'll wrap up my part of the section highlighting UCF libraries. I'm going to look at the current model that we have and then turn it over to Rachel to talk about our future plans. So our current model is probably very similar to what many of you have based on our poll. We do have a couple of positions that are engaged somewhat in digital scholarship. Myself as Scholarcom Librarian, we have a unit focused on digital initiatives that manages our repository. But generally, we do not have a dedicated unit or department at this time, which we'll talk more about this. We do have positions that engage in it, but nothing really is formalized or centrally coordinated. Our scope is more focused on Scholarcom right now, a less digital scholarship specific, and data has become a huge area of focus on our campus, but we recognize that that is a gap in the library, and what we have done so far is somewhat limited. And much of what we do is really mapped to the research lifecycle. And what we have right now has worked well, but we also recognize that that needs to grow and evolve as the research needs of our campus community grows and evolves. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel.
Thanks, Sarah. So I love to talk about the future. I could do it all day long. So I'm happy to talk about a little bit about our new department that we're creating. The positions that we're creating are going to be dedicated to different aspects of digital scholarship. There'll be more coordinated efforts across campus with the various centers and partners that we have. We're doing some strategic planning in the library, and so we've been bringing in our partners and kind of getting feedback on our strategic plan from their perspective as well. We hope to enhance a lot of our existing services, but also add some of the new services that Sarah talked about a bit that we haven't been able to offer before. We'll have a dedicated space in early 2026. Our fourth floor of our library is being renovated currently, and sometime late next year, we're going to be moving some of our existing technology labs up there, but also adding additional space for collaboration, immersion, and other types of extended reality technologies. So I'm very excited about it. But, no matter what the opportunities and challenges are, it's good to think about starting small and then just growing based on your funds as well as, paying attention to the university's research needs. So we have another poll here. I have this in the chat. It's just like the other one, so hopefully if you scan the code, you won't have to add your name or anything. You should just go straight to the poll. So what is the greatest challenge your library faces in implementing forward-thinking digital scholarship services? I have some guesses as to what the top one will be, but I'm excited to see what you all respond. Let's see, we have about 14 responses so far. We'll give it a little bit longer. So Sarah's flipped it over.
Go back. Yep, I was like, I'm going to go back just because it said it locked it. So I want to give people some more time to be able to respond. Maybe like 2 more seconds.
Okay.
There we go. Got a few more in there.
I got about 30 responses. So limited staff and limited technical expertise. I thought funding would be the biggest one, but it's, I guess, tied. first two are tied, and so it's technically the second one. Um, I like people in the chat put all of the above. That is very much a yes. I'll just say yes to all of that. So strategies for responding to the evolving research enterprise that Sarah talked about. There's a lot of strategies we want to recommend for collaboration. So the first one is around partnership. And there was a question in the chat about community and working with partners. So first thing I think you should do is conduct an environmental scan of your institution's organizational structure. Identify the key positions in the various groups, identify centers, connect with your Office of Research, IT, College of Graduate Studies, any other group on campus that you think does anything with research, and see how you can partner together. Reach out, talk, have a conversation about what they're doing, help them understand what you're doing in the library. And that's a great way to start the conversation. Also participating in committees or councils on campus. And even if you can't attend yourself, encourage other people in your library to go. You just want library representation there. So that way all the groups on campus think, oh, the library needs to be involved, and make sure you're at the table. Also attend campus events and activities. I find the serendipitous run-ins you have with people across campus at these events is sometimes actually more beneficial than the events themselves. So be sure to engage as much as you can in those things. Also explore interinstitutional collaborations. Whether it's consortial or it's through a specific area of digital scholarship, such as the Data Curation Network. There's a lot of different opportunities out there. And then, of course, identify grants and then seek partnerships on those grants. So another thing you can do is look in identifying services and look for gaps. So some questions you can ask is, what can your library provide expertise in, training on, or support? Do you have expertise in copyright or in text and data mining, in digital object identifiers, digital publishing or grants? Maybe you have someone who's really good with geographical spatial data. Or maybe you have a need for it on campus, but you found a partner and you want to bring them in and help train your colleagues. Just think of all the different ways that you can work together. Are those gaps that are currently being supported? And again, start small if you have limited staffing or infrastructure. Try to prioritize the most important things on campus and go for those. Identifying educational opportunities. So this is really important. More than just providing the services, you can't expect everyone to just suddenly be experts in everything. So you need to host micro conferences, boot camps and conferences, workshops, and programming for both your library staff, your library faculty, staff, your IT folks. You may even hold workshops and things for the librarians or library employees in your community or the region of where you live. Or with centers and partners on campus. Education and sort of training the trainer is really kind of an important key here. You may also offer digital badges or certificates, or if you have more capacity, you may even be able to establish credit-bearing courses. There's a lot of things to do around education. Another thing that you need to help integrate digital scholarship into supporting the research enterprise is having some space. Yes, digital means online, but there's a lot of technology that you really need to kind of have hands-on, and you need sometimes a space to have those research consultations. Maybe you need meeting rooms. Maybe you need collaborative seating around a computer so you can work together. You also sometimes need casual seating for socializing or just project planning. Maybe you need classroom space or presentation space. Also, you want to consider the proximity of your services to your library staff. I've seen a lot of places that put their library employees who are providing the service in or very near those services, and it makes it a lot easier. And in early 2026, again, we're going to have when the fourth floor renovation is complete, we're going to open up a new technology space, and it'll be serving as a digital scholarship and research hub. So we don't have that now, but we will. And then finally, the technology that goes into those spaces. Maybe you need to have technology-focused, faculty-driven grant projects that will drive people into um, learning more about the services you provide, how they can partner and work with you. There's a great example of some things going on at Vanderbilt in their digital lab. Technology-rich spaces for digital storytelling, collaborative scholarship, and experiential learning. These are all things that are really important, and kind of the direction that technology is going, I think, in order to really support digital scholarship. And so that means you're going to need to have some high performance computing workstations, some virtual reality equipment, audiovisual production equipment, digitizing equipment, maybe immersive visualization spaces, and collaborative tools. So, envisioning the future. We talked about like how many should we include? There's dozens and dozens of, oh, probably hundreds of examples out there. But these are some of the ones that we really like. Some of these have been have centers for digital scholarship that have been established for many years. And if you go to their website, um, you'll see that they have tons of information and maybe even list out all the digital scholarship projects they had. Other ones here are fairly new, but are doing really cool things. So what you can do is you can review models from other libraries and just continue to look at trends in higher education. We have a list of resources at the end that you can link to. Plus, there's a lot of things here that we've linked to. But you want to consider services, staffing, technology, and space. Those are sort of the main four things you need to think about. You want to integrate emerging technologies such as AI, and see how that can support digital humanities or other different types of aspects of digital scholarship. And define what success means for your library. You always want to make sure that your goals align with the strategic directions of your library and institution. And it's always important to do assessment to measure, are we meeting our goals? Are we making a difference? And then again, get your colleagues involved across the library. Get them involved, educate them, train them up, and they can be your biggest allies. So other considerations, always think about digital accessibility as well as physical accessibility. That should be at the forefront of discussions related to digital scholarship. Artificial intelligence and other technologies. I didn't go into all of them here. There's not enough time, but there's a lot out there. And then also thinking about sustainability and scalability. If you start small and you start to grow, you have to be able to maintain the services that you're growing. And so make sure you have enough staff and expertise and to be able to support that. So this is not a poll, this is a Padlet, so with another QR code. So what was the most helpful information shared in this session? We were hoping that you could talk about this on the Padlet. If you scan the QR code, yes, I can put the link in the chat. I'm sorry, Patricia. I'm in charge of all of the links here. There you go.
Doing
The
great,
link.
Rachel.
There you go. So you can put on the Padlet, and I guess Sarah can pull that up
Yes,
because it means leaving the presentation. Sorry.
it does. I'm gonna actually, hopefully you'll still be seeing everything here. Yes,
Yes,
great.
it's loading. But yes, if you click on the little plus sign at the bottom right, it will allow you to put in some text, and you can type something in, and it will show up, and then you can see what people have put in. You can upvote it, or you can see what other people have written. So far, there's nothing there. People look like they're writing.
Good. That's great to hear some of the strategies were helpful. I love that resonated with you about starting small and thinking about what success would look like. I know sometimes because we're a large institution, we have a lot of things going on, but even for us, baby steps are really important. Even with like data services, we've been taking a lot of small steps.
Mapping
Mapping service,
services
yeah, it's
to the
good.
research cycle. Seeing a list of universities with digital scholarship centers was helpful. Well, we are about out of time, so you can see that on your own screen, either on your phone or on your computer. And we'll just continue on. We're almost done. I'll leave you with this quote from Arthur C. Clarke. The only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. So not that I'm implying that, digital scholarship centers are impossible to get to, but I think you have to be willing to take a risk and try things. And, it may not work. You may have to scale back, but we have to try. So the next slides are some of our resources consulted. And then I don't know, do we have time for Q&A?
I feel like we don't have time for Q&A.
Okay, but we have our contact information here. Sarah, do you know if the slides will be shared, the recordings will be shared?
I know the recordings will be shared with anyone who registered. And then we can definitely make sure that our slides perhaps are included in our institutional repository. I'm not sure if the slide decks are getting shared.
Okay. There was a request to go back to slide 37.
Can you tell me what was on slide 37?
That one, I'm sorry, the resources.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, that was the first one of the resources. I'm guessing someone's probably getting screenshots. Um, there's a few thank yous in the chat that say we are risk takers. Thank you. The session was informative. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's really lovely. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for attending.
Yeah. And go to the
Um,
next resources. Yep. Thank you.
yep, yep.
Thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the session.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we hope everybody has a good rest of
Yeah.
the conference.
Thank you.